All right, good morning. Welcome everybody. Day 2 of yet another enforced lockdown, tightening up the controls, level 4, whatever that means. And Tobias and I were just chatting about it before we kicked off the session. Yeah, it's not going to be something that disappears quickly. So I think we need to find ways to work within the system. We need to find ways to work around the system, and we need to find ways to work and leverage the system. So perseverance is the topic. Personal mastery is the focus this morning. So Lee, how do we persevere in these difficult and uncertain times?
Well, I'd like to start with just sharing a story of my daughter, and then I'd like to share my screen and just show some slides from our attitude program around perseverance. So just a few days ago, my youngest daughter, who's in musical theatre, and of course, globally, the theatre industry is almost non-existent. And so it's an industry, an entire industry that really is under threat, because I don't know how long people in that industry can hold on for the sake that maybe one day it will come back. And so the story is many are reinventing themselves and persevering, but in other fields. But my daughter sent me a message saying, she says, obviously, as you know, it's been an up and down journey. And just as she builds herself up, something happens, and one of her gigs got postponed, which of course means that the finances of that gig now is not coming in June, July, it's coming in October. And she said, okay, we have decided, her and her business partner, we've decided that we're going to work with what is, not with what isn't. And it was such a positive response to just that issue. Then lockdown 4 happens. Every little scrap of something that she'd put together, like a little review at a restaurant here and a little gig that she was doing at a mall over there, now all gone. Everything is gone. And just to also put that in perspective, the Standard Bank Arts Festival in Grahamstown, 2 weeks of festival in June, that people have been working on for over a year, cancelled. All the social distancing things put in place, everything required, not happening. And so talk about perseverance. And I say that, so this I'm seeing it very personally through the eyes of my daughter, who's, you build, you pivot. She says, I've been pivoting so much, I'm literally going round in circles. You're going this way, you're going this way, this doesn't work, so you try this, and then it works, and then it collapses. And on Monday, so yesterday, she sent me a message and she said, you know what? I'm low, because it's hard. I just don't know how much more I can keep lifting myself up. And I said to her, be low. You can't, there are times in the journey of perseverance where the energy to keep lifting yourself up is more than just having a day or two that says, you know what, it's horrible. Have your pity party. That's what I think. Have your pity party. Cry your tears. Have a moment where the world is falling apart. Your life is the worst it's ever going to be. And it's awful. And then there will come a day and you can take a breath and you can say, okay, I will keep going. I will keep persevering. I will carry on. And so that's when I want to share my screen. And we look at this chap here. successful people, and then there's this famous saying, never, I wish I could have, you know, that gravelly voice, never give up. And that was the speech. That was the one, that was all he had to say. And that's the message. Never give up, no matter what it takes. So I can leave this image here. Let me just stop the share. But I just wanted to prompt your thinking just with those just simple images, and leave it with you.
Great, thanks, Lee. Yeah, it is. You know, it's the cycles. It's the cycles of life, the cycles of business, isn't it? But the important thing is, you know, when you are in those low points, you know, to do exactly that. Never give up. And you've got to know that. You know, there's always something that you can do. There's always somewhere else that you can go, something else you can look at, and you've got to shift your gaze, don't you? You've got to really move your perspective from what has been and what has happened to what can be and what can happen. And then not easy when you're at that point. But like many things, I think when it comes to personal mastery, it's about developing those habits, isn't it? And developing that mindset around the ability to switch. You know, not so much pivot, but you know, switch that focus. And you know, I think as you quite rightly said, you know, if you pivot too much, you start spinning like a top, and you know, that can be dysfunctional in its own way. So take a step back. You know, just take that step back and look at it with fresh eyes. So I know Tabiso has taken a step outside this morning. So he's sitting outside in the cold there because of level 4 lockdown. So Tabiso, we'll switch off our videos and love to hear your thoughts on perseverance.
All right. I think that, you know, like Lee said, perseverance is never giving up, you know. Perseverance is the ability to go through hell and make it through to the other side, you know. Perseverance is to keep going no matter what. It is the skill most necessary for success, you know. This is because to succeed in any field, in every endeavor, you know, you need to be able to complete tasks. You need to be able to be consistent. You need to be recurring, you know. You need to be able to pick your battles and engage in those that you are certain you are going to win, you know. You need to be able to win. This is because we are aiming creatures and we are almost aiming at what is better. Perseverance helps us stay engaged with the goal that we are aiming at. You know, perseverance is the process of the goal. It is what you do presently. Perseverance is being itself. You know, it is a verb. It is being present. You know, Darwin actually made the term survival of the fittest popular, and it is exactly what perseverance is, because you are always fighting, metaphorically, of course, to survive in this jungle called Earth, you know, and death is always around it. Death is always at the corner, and Mother Nature is always plotting, you know. So in a sense, you always persevere every day. You are lucky every day to be alive. The present is a gift, you know. To persevere, you have to have a long-term plan and see it through, you know, to give everything to the process, even though you might not be successful. Those who persevere make their own success. You know, to persevere is to have a why and actually see it through, no matter what, you know. Maybe I'll talk about one of my heroes, you know. in Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos is someone who actually showed this perseverance with the success of Amazon.com for years, for 10 consecutive years. The company was running at a negative deficit. And his shareholders were uneasy, but he convinced them to actually invest more and look to the future. He believed in the internet and the Amazon's role in it, even though it was in its infancy and a huge risk. Like the internet back then in 1995 or 4, no one knew what it was. It was just like blockchain. So selling books over the internet was a risk, because no one knew what the internet was. It was a big risk, and the company really wasn't making money. They were actually losing money year after year. But Jeff Bezos actually had to persevere because he had this long-term vision. Amazon even survived the dot-com bubble in 2000, a crash that sent millions of businesses to their grave, but because there was a plan, Amazon stuck it through. Bezos had a clear long-term goal, and Amazon persevered despite the odds. It's such a great story because when Amazon finally generated a profit, it made Jeff Bezos the richest man in the world. I think that's what happens when you plan and persevere. You can achieve great things. You look at another titan, a great man. Like, I think this man is actually an alien, in Elon Musk, like Tesla, SpaceX, Solar System, the Boring Company, and he's all like a CEO in all these major companies. Like, he started Tesla, electric vehicles weren't a thing, so he actually started the market. Sure, the market had cars like Fiskars and all that, but the market wasn't broad enough. There wasn't a demand for electric vehicles in the market. And actually, Elon Musk actually created this demand. He made electric vehicles popular. This is what perseverance can do for you. And of course, the goal of SpaceX to take humanity to Mars, I think that is wow, it shows that he actually has a long-term vision, and if he can actually see it through, I think that great things will happen, with Solar System, the Boring Company, they're actually creating implements for your mind, brain chips and all that to actually improve the condition of the human, So I think that when you have perseverance, when you have a goal, you can actually get through to everything. And I think that people like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos are examples of what perseverance can actually do for you, if you actually see it through, if your desire is to actually win and to be the best, to persevere is to be the best, it is to make it through. I think that's just my contribution on today's topic. So thank you, Ivan.
Thanks, Tabisa. Seems like you should spend more time outside the mall than inside. Your connection was much better this morning. So, yeah, perseverance, an interesting one, isn't it? So, Jasper, I think perseverance is definitely in your vocabulary.
I think sometimes the choice just is taken out of your hands, and it's not that you're choosing it. It's just that what do you, and like we say, what do you do with what you have? I think that's part of the challenge, that a lot of people still had a bit of call it reserve, or and they were hoping that things could go back to their old normal. And now that the reserves have dried up, and everybody in droves now have to face the reality that not only don't I have the reserves anymore, I've actually lost my original sources of income. People who worked out of offices are no longer having those offices. Yesterday, I just received a notice of one of the companies we deal with in PE, They're closing down their offices. Everybody work from home. They're not going to open up offices again. So, and I think none of us around the table has an idea of what the normal economy will be like 2 years from now. Because like you guys, I don't see, now that the government has got power, I can't see them easily letting go of this lockdown situations. So Ivan, I'm actually coming back to what you said right in the beginning, is how do we deal with this whole thing? How do we work within the system, around the system, and leveraging the system? And I think that's always true. It doesn't matter what the system is. But right now, the system hasn't yet revealed itself clearly. So I think part of our struggle is to find out, okay, what is the system so that I can start applying my in, around, and leverage. But it was also touched on by Tsabiso, and that is had this hope, have this an almost lifetime vision. And, before lockdown, I mean, most of our conversations are now colored by the lockdown. But the reality is, I'm putting myself in the shoes of that domestic worker 50 years ago that had to fight lack of transport, get up early in the morning, get to a place of work, earning menial income to put her kids through what the only thing she can think of doing is put her kids through school, with the hope that one day they will become professionals. What made her, through winter, through summer, through the political unrests, through maybe a husband that is abusive and she needs to hide her money, month end, maybe have to dodge and dives, tsotsies and people like that. Those are not pleasant circumstances. Yet we do occasionally hear stories of such a mother standing next to a child who's just received his doctorate and he's now a lawyer or he's a doctor or something like that. So for me, it's that hope. It's that hope to say, this can't be it. This can't be the end. And then that hope creates the creativeness. That hope creates the awareness of what other new resources can I now tap into. And it might well be that people that you in the past would have overlooked because they were not necessarily of your social status or of your academic status or whatever the case may be, in this new environment, all of a sudden reveal themselves as very strategic and maybe having the survival skills and getting out of the whole thing. So I'm thinking of the illustrations of putting feathers on a scale. Now, there's almost no visible weight on the feather. And on the other scale, you've got this heavy lump of metal that you're trying to balance out. But it's one more feather. So every effort, every day, getting up, getting through your paces, doing your thing is one more feather. And then there comes a time that, there's maybe a little shudder in the scale with the next feather. And it gives you even the renewed hope. But it's many, many feathers later before the scale lifts. And then the last feather just tips the scale in your favor. Now, we never know when is that last feather to tip the scale. And for myself, I had a vision the other day of when you look at 3D printing, and I haven't really seen it in action apart from on a video, but in the programming of this 3D printer is then, I mean, now they even print houses and multi-story buildings. So in this printer's programming is the how to print this multi-story building. But I'm thinking in my mind, how does this process start? So you have this nozzle, and this nozzle runs over on the ground, on the surface, and microscopic layer of the first layer. And when it's finished, a lot of energy has gone into deliver that first microscopic layer, but you can't almost see what's happening. But it just points and again. And over time, looking back, you can start seeing the structure rising. until finally it's completed. And I think in our own life, that little daily activity is just a nozzle, just doing another laying down of a fine microscopic layer that for the day is not visible. But when you look back a month or a year or a couple of years, then you can see where this whole thing has gone. So I think hold on to hope. His favorite saying in that one movie, the Marigold Hotel, I think, that says, in the end, everything will be all right. And if it's not all right, it's not the end yet.
Great, thanks so much, Jasper. Yeah, some great examples and analogies there. So really enjoyed that. Thank you. Right, Trevor, what is perseverance?
Yeah, very interesting. Perseverance. I'm listening to Leah, her youngest daughter, and the story, and I'm thinking back now to our time of life, where it looks as though the twilight is coming in on the left of my screen. Which side is it? You think back, and I think my entire life has been built upon perseverance. And I think we're extremely lucky, and I think your daughter is extremely lucky at a young age to be confronted with the situation as it is right now. And all things are relative. I mean, I'm just watching these poor folk in Florida. We all want to go and retire onto the coastline of a place like Florida, and you get into this blooming building and suddenly it collapses down on you and 150 people are lost overnight. What chance have they got? They've got zero chance. What chance has your daughter got? She's got every chance in the world to actually make things happen from here. So it's, these things are all relative. Each breath that we actually have to take is an opportunity to do something in the future. And that's what we've got to go back to. I've just been called upon today to do a talk for someone that Ed Chapman asked. In fact, it was someone who contributed to one of our global summits, Trevor Lee. And he asked me to do a talk on Comrades and Comrades Marathon. And he asked if I had any information that I could give him. So I sent him one of our links where I wrote Comrades, one of the greatest metaphors of life. And in it there, I talked of comrades, especially for the first time individual. Man, you don't know how many ups and downs there are in the world until you've actually run a comrades. It's not called the Valley of 1,000 Hills for nothing. And you actually have to go up and down these things. And it almost feels as though each hill you go up, you put that into your rucksack, because then the next one you run is twice as hard, and the next one you run is 3 times as hard, and then there's 1,000 of them. Ask Jasper. And he turns around and says he flattened all the hills. No, he didn't, because I still had to run up and down them for 10 comrades. And that's where you get these metaphors or analogies that life is about ups and downs. And that if you can actually understand this thing of perseverance or persistence, it's you know that you're actually going to hit that low. So be prepared for it. And youngsters perhaps are not prepared for that. And I would hope that they realize that there are people that can actually help with their situations and look after them while they're actually learning these ups and downs of life. And today, I think there is so much opportunity out there, and that we are all being taught the lesson that if you are passionate about something, another P for goodness sake, and you, I mean, I think we are lulled into this thing about live your passion. If you can be lucky enough to actually live your passion and make a fortune out of that, that's the best way to go. But I don't think life is that simple. I think we are in such unpredictable times, another P there, that maybe you've got to give yourself a couple of options, because you never know when this rug is going to be pulled out from underneath you. and I've just seen how people, Jasper mentioned that people are hoping that they can go back to the old normal. It's not, I don't think that's it anymore. I think you have to actually turn around and say, if it goes back to the old normal, we're extremely fortunate. But what if it doesn't go back to the old normal? What am I then going to do? And that you got to be thinking of some what if alternatives. I had a discussion with a guy yesterday where I turned around to him and said, man, I haven't got a clue what the hell is going on in this field of cryptocurrencies, and we were talking alternative investment instruments, and he turned around and said, you know what, don't even talk to me about any of that stuff. I'm not interested at all. Well, that made me even more interested because unless we are actually aware of what the hell is going on on this planet at the moment. We're in a digital revolution where perhaps the world of money and cash as we knew it. I mean, I used to get paid by checks, and you know, you used to go around with cash in your pocket, and if you didn't have that, you actually couldn't survive. Well, today, you don't need any of that blooming stuff. And tomorrow, you might never, ever need it. And in fact, all the cash and the stuff that you put under your mattress in between the feathers that Jasper was talking about, that's probably disappeared. So what are your alternatives? And I think this word perseverance now, 2 words need to be added to it. Perseverance with purpose. So you've actually got to be thinking visionary. If I'm going to persevere in this theater game and this world does change, if that is going to be my purpose, what alternatives? For instance, so as you were talking, because my daughter is also my oldest daughter is involved in the film and media industry. She's actually on a flight right now to France, going there for a conference, can you believe it, in France. Now, if you look at the news in France, I mean, there's COVID is wreaking havoc in there, but she's in the air at the moment going to a conference on virtual reality, been invited there by the French government, if you can believe, where most people are turning around saying, but everything's been locked down, everything's been shut down. No, it hasn't. There are new realities, and she's working in the field of VR. So they're flying over because it's that important to this government to get involved in it. So on behalf of your daughter, I turn around and say, but theater, what are you saying that theater is dead? If you love theater and you love these things and people love entertainment, is there not a way that we can use the Zoom to actually do, you know, there used to be on radio, theater of the mind. What about theater of the Zoom? And I'm sure I've seen people in New York doing theater of the Zoom. So how do you take your perseverance or your passion and actually follow a prescript of perseverance with purpose, passion with purpose, and give yourself some alternatives to move if the rug is taken out from under you? Because I believe what is happening right now is a substantial changing of how we all operated on this planet. That if you are not thinking about alternative ways of doing business, you and your family, your income might be wiped out completely. And that's why you've got to be considering. We've got to work 10 times as hard as we used to work, thinking about alternative ways in case this is taken away from us. And if you think about it, what about these poor folk who are refugees and governments take over? And Jasper alluded to it. He thinks, oh, this. I mean, he's our arch conspiracist. So I love Jasper. He thinks the government is in total control of everything, is pulling the rug out from. Well, what if he's right? That's what I'm looking. So if he's right and locally everything's going to be pulled out from us, where else can we make money and how else can we do that? Well, if you want to know, just give me a call and I'll tell you, because I'm spending a lot of my time answering those same questions based on the what if and the concerns that we all have to be pretty realistic about, that I think Jasper is sharing with us. My little rant for the morning.
Okay, good. So perseverance, one of the absolute keys to success, I think, without a shadow of doubt. Without perseverance, you can achieve very little. But other than that, I think it's pretty much been said. So, Lee, that was perseverance, or part of perseverance, I suppose. Some great insights, some great thoughts, and some great inspiration, I think, for people who might be struggling because perhaps they're not thinking. So they need to get on here and think. Let's get people to think, because that's where it all starts, doesn't it? Get interested, get some ideas, start to think, and then persevere. So tomorrow, what are we doing tomorrow? Subject for tomorrow. Anybody got a good idea?
Yeah,
for
well,
us?
I think we should pick up on Trevor's latest passion. Is his name Kevin Chu? Kevin, the Korean. Tell us his story. Let's hear about tokens and take us into the future, Trevor.
Now you're putting me under pressure. I've got so much work to do today, and I've got to find out more about this guy.
No,
Persevere, Trevor. Persevere.
No. Just tell us what you already know. If we know more, then it's too exhausting. Just tell us what you already know, and then we can have a discussion around it.
Good.
Fantastic.
Great.
All right, go out and be non-fungible, and we will find out about your tokens in the morning.
Okay. Thanks,
Okay,
everyone.
cheers, everyone.
Yeah, bye.